special education student who has history on our campus. No separate pull-out courses. It's the only course on campus like that. Group 2, students who are so individually disruptive in their college prep classroom that they've been removed for the sake of the learning environment of the other students in that class. And then in the wisdom of what we do at West Hills, we take all these students who have been individually disruptive and we say, why don't we group them all together into one room? Because that would be educationally sound, of course, right? And then the third group are students that are downright openly apathetic. They don't want to come to school, they don't want to be at school, they're not necessarily a behavior problem, they're just not doing anything. They walk in with a chip on their shoulder, they don't mind you knowing they're basically being forced to come to school. Now, if you take those 3 groups and you mix them together, those are my people. Those are the students that I love to teach. Those are the students I specialize in teaching. Those are the students that teach like a pirate was specially designed for. I think it works with students across the whole spectrum, but it was specially designed working on the front lines of classes like that. Now, after talking to people in the process of getting booked to come here, they've actually told me that you don't have any of those 3 groups in this area of Louisiana. But just by maybe some sort of accident, maybe 1 or 2 have moved into the region and wind up in the classrooms. I think you'll find some stuff that will apply to you here today. And then the last thing, before we get going full speed, is I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Teach Like a Pirate. I did see some books and stuff and the shirts and all. So I was, out of curiosity, for how many of you is this morning basically your first exposure to Teach Like a Pirate? A few. Okay, so you have to know right now, this has nothing to do with wanting teachers to attack and rob ships at sea. All right, there's kind of 3 layers to the whole pirate metaphor. First of all, it's about embracing the spirit of a pirate. To me, the spirit of a pirate is someone who is unconventional, someone who's willing to reject the status quo, someone who's willing to sail into uncharted waters with no guarantee of success, a risk taker, a rebel, a maverick in the classroom. So it's about embracing that spirit of being a pirate. In addition to that, the P-I-R-A-T-E of the word pirate, it's an acronym. Each one of those letters stands for something in the pirate system. Now, the amount of time that we have here today, I'll be showing you 4 of those 6 letters, and in between those letters, I'll show you the 3rd layer of the metaphor, and as pirates are known for having hooks. And so I'll show you hooks that you can add into your classroom, into your content, to draw students in almost magically or magnetically into what you're doing in the school system. And so that's kind of the 3 layers of the whole pirate metaphor. And with that being said, are you ready to start full speed? Yeah! Okay. Some people say, wait, that wasn't full speed yet? Okay, all right, here we go. It starts with the P of pirate. I know that sounds kind of weird. It stands for passion. You see, I know you have a deep, dark secret inside. I know because you're a teacher, and I'm a teacher too, but you don't want to say anything about it because you're fearful of the judgment of your peers. You're fearful, you're the only one that holds the secret inside, and so you keep it in there like a burden on your shoulders, a burden on your very soul. I like to look at it like Betty Friedan when she wrote The Feminine Escape. She said, women all across America are lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, asking themselves, is this all? But they didn't say anything to their peers because they thought they were the only ones that felt that sense of dissatisfaction. And so they kept it inside. I mean, look at you. Oh my God. Just look at you. Holding this deep, dark secret inside for all these years, but then look how judgmental she is. I can understand exactly why you wouldn't want to say something, right? So I would like to be the Betty Friedan for you here this morning. I would like to free you of this deep, dark secret once and for all. You see, everywhere you go, people say, you have to have passion, you have to bring passion. Then they say something like this, if you can't find passion for your work, then by God, find new work. And you're like, oh yeah, you're all pumped up and excited. And then the speaker says, thank you. And they leave without ever addressing the deep, dark secret. So here it is. I'm going to go a little lower, just in case there are non-educators in the lobby. We know we are supposed to be passionate about our work. But, and with apologies to Sir Mix-a-Lot, this is a big but. We are not passionate about everything we teach. It's okay. Let the freedom wash over you. It's okay. You know there's those days when you look at your content standard, that part of your unit, that part of your curriculum, it's just not your thing. There might be lots of stuff that you love to teach, but you know there are those days. Now I should mention there are some exceptions to this. Teachers really are passionate about every single thing that they teach. I call them freaks. Okay? Right? But for the rest of us human beings, you know there are those days. Well, what do you do on those days? Well, what I did is I wrote passion into 3 categories. This was something that was helpful for me. I hope that's helpful for you as well. So as I go through these 3 categories, I would like you to mentally consider, if not right, what will these categories for you? So category 1 is your content passion. Within your subject matter, within your grade level curriculum, what are you passionate about? Now, if you are outside of a classroom setting in the district, this would read, within my job description in the system, what am I passionate about? Okay, what am I passionate about? Now, it won't be all of it, right? But hopefully it's something. Like if you have nothing that you can put in that category right there, we need to talk after the program today. It's possible you've been miscast in your role. We just need to address that, right? So as a U.S. history teacher at the high school level, here's how my category 1 was set. I'm passionate about teaching the civil rights movement. I love to teach the civil rights movement. Now within the civil rights movement, I'm more passionate about some parts than others. Like I especially like to teach the edgier side. I like to teach things like the Black Panther Party and Malcolm X. Now if you knew anything about my clientele, you would know that when I'm teaching a subject like Malcolm X, there's going to be some energy in the room. It's not necessarily going to be positive, there's going to be energy in the room. I like subjects that bring energy into the room. I'm passionate about teaching the resistance to slavery. I'm passionate about teaching entrepreneurship through U.S. history. There's all parts of history that I'm passionate about, but I am not passionate about railroads. Okay? Like, I understand the historical significance of railroads, but never once have I got up in the morning and just been like, yeah, it's railroad day. I can't wait to get in here. Let's do this. Let's bring it. Okay? I'm not a big Industrial Revolution guy, and this is almost sacrilegious for a history teacher to say, so I apologize to any in the room, but I'm not a big military history guy. I don't get into all the intricate details of the battles and all that. That's just not my particular area of passion in history. So then what do I do on those days? Or what do you do on the days when you're teaching or doing your equivalent of railroads? Well, that's where categories 2 and 3 come in. Category 2 is the most important category of all. Category 2 is the life-changing category. Category 2 could transform the way that you look at your role as an educator. Category 2 says, within my profession, but not specific to my subject, within my profession, what am I passionate about? These are your professional passions. I'm going to give you a hint on this. You might want to consider some of the reasons you got into this business to begin with that we so often fail to connect with as we go through the day-to-day struggles and frustrations of a school year. Like, I don't know too many teachers who are in this business because of their content passion of category 1. Most of us are in this building together because of our professional passions of category 2. Okay? So here's how my category 2 might sound. I'm passionate about developing lifelong learners. I'm passionate about taking students who are apathetic about school and making them want to come to school, even if it's just for my 53 minutes they're going to come to school that day. I'm passionate about having students leave my class with a larger vision of what they're capable of than when they walked in. I'm passionate about embedding character development and character building into every single thing that I teach. I'm passionate about developing engaging presentations for material. These are things I'm passionate about, not because I'm not because I'm a U.S. history teacher, but because I'm an educator. I got into this business for category 2, professional passion reasons. I did not get into this business for the railroads, okay? So the key is, especially on those days when you're not hitting in that content passion of category 1, you have to consciously, it won't happen automatically, consciously bring that focus to those category 2 reasons for doing what we do. Let me give you some examples straight out of my classroom. I said I'm passionate about teaching Malcolm X. Now when I'm teaching Malcolm X, I've got a certain amount of historical information I'm trying to deliver about Malcolm. Those are my content standards, but I've got a much larger agenda on this day. I'm going to use Malcolm's life as a way to talk to my students about the unbelievable capacity that human beings have to transform themselves over the course of a lifetime. His life is perfect for that. Here's a guy, when he was younger, his father was killed, most likely murdered by a white supremacist group, most people believe. His mother was institutionalized, and now the children stripped away from her. And then Malcolm jumped from foster home to foster home, finally dropping out of school after having his dreams crushed by, of all people, a teacher. He ends up moving to the city, gets involved with the wrong crowd, illegal numbers running, lottery activities, petty crimes, thefts, burglary rings. Finally, he's caught, tried, convicted on robbery, burglary, and weapons charges, and locked in prison on a 10-year sentence. It's hard to get much lower in life than this. Your father's been murdered, your mom's institutionalized, now you're a school dropout, a criminal convict sitting in a prison cell. And yet, from his prison cell, of all places, Malcolm transformed his life through the power of self-education. The prison library, correspondence courses, reading every book he could get his hands on. He became this highly intelligent, educated man from his prison cell. Later in life, after giving a speech, someone asked him, "What's your alma mater?" And he just looked at him and said, "Books, a good library." And now through Malcolm, I get a chance to talk to my kids about the unbelievable power of self-education to transform their lives. If they want to learn something, know something, hey, you don't have to have an assignment from a teacher to learn. You don't have to have permission to learn. Anything you want to know, do, be, just go get it. Just go after it. It's all there at your fingertips. Just go get it. That's embedded inside those content standards. Also the idea that no matter where you are now, no matter how low you fall in life, you can always rise to greatness through your own self-efforts. But I would continue about how he joined the Nation of Islam, met Elijah Muhammad, changed his name, became a minister, got his own mosque. Imagine from a prison cell to a minister. Eventually national spokesperson for them. But then after years of delivering a message, after years of professing loyalty to something and to somebody, he came into some new information. And he was willing to transform his life all over again, despite what he had just said for years. And he had just started a new organization, a new movement when he stood up to give a speech at the Audubon Ballroom. And there was a scuffle in the crowd as he reached the podium. And he was shot 16 times at close range, assassinated at the age of 39 years old. All these twists and turns in 39 short years. Same age as Dr. King, by the way. And now through Malcolm, I get a chance to talk to my kids about, hey, just because you believe something now, just because you're hearing a certain message at home, just because your peer group is a part of something right now, that doesn't have to be your destiny. You can grow, you can change, you can transform. You're never stuck in life. You can become a better person. That's embedded again in those content standards. Rosa Parks. Of course, I want them to know about the Montgomery bus boycotts. More importantly, that an ordinary citizen, not a president or a general, an ordinary citizen can change history. Lunar landing. Yeah, I want them to know how it ties to the space race and the Cold War. And those are my content standards. But I'm looking for an LCL. I'm trying to add an LCL into every single thing that I teach. An LCL stands for a life-changing lesson. What's going to be the life-changing lesson that gets embedded inside the content today? For the lunar landing, there's several of them. But one of them might sound like this, just to give you an example. I might say to my students, at the beginning of the 60s, JFK said, we're going to go to the moon. We're going to walk on the moon. And you know what? We're going to do it this decade. Now, when he said it, that was crazy talk. Think about the technology of the early 60s when he said that. He probably should have been locked up for saying something like that. But yet with this goal, this vision, the collaboration of thousands, the conviction of a nation, we achieved it. He didn't live to see it, but in the summer of '69, we were literally walking on the surface of the moon. It's one of the most amazing things that happened in the history of the world, if you really think about it. 1969 technology. Are you kidding me? Desktop computers? No way. A computer's like the size of a whole room with this power that you have in your pocket or purse right now. Laptop computers? No. How about tablets? You make the screen bigger by going like this with your fingers. Cell phones, smartphone technology? Nope. GPS systems in your car telling you which way to turn? Nope. How about this one right here? Microwave ovens? No. We were years and years away from something like a microwave oven, and yet we were walking on the surface of the moon. We could produce a rocket ship, and we fired up into space at great speeds, and there were the gravitational pull of Earth. There were human beings inside this thing going faster than a bullet in certain points, and we navigated 250,000 miles, no matter GPS, more than 250,000 miles to the moon. But then you can't just like crash into it, like separate off a landing module. None of this technology has ever been tested before. This is the first time out of the box for all this stuff. We separate off a landing module, and we dropped it down safely to the surface of the moon without even knowing what we were going to be landing on, by the way. And then we got out in some silly suits. And we walked around a little bit. And then we picked some stuff up. Still not good enough. Because now from 250,000 miles away, we had to get back inside this thing. Somehow power off the surface of the moon and then reattach to this thing that had been orbiting the moon the whole time and get the human being safely inside in outer space, I might add, and then get them 250,000 miles back to Earth. And no landing like a shuttle. No. They were inside of a freaking capsule. And then we just splashed them down into the ocean. And they lived. Are you kidding me that we did that in 1969? If we could do that in 1969, what can't you do? That goal, that vision, that dream you're not even reaching for because it seems so far out there, it pales in comparison to to what we accomplished in 1969. Those obstacles that you think are standing in your way, they're nothing compared to what we overcame in 1969 with a goal, a vision, a dream of what you want to accomplish, and then the hard work, the conviction, the courage to go after it. You can do the impossible. Now that's embedded inside those content standards of the lunar landing. And when you start to look at education like that, it becomes really easy to get pumped up to come to school in the morning. Because now, it's not just about raising test scores, it's about raising human potential, which is what we're really here for. We are in the life-changing business, quite literally the life-changing business. We are about a mightier purpose, what outside forces would like to drag our attention towards. Sometimes successfully, I might add. And we, as individual educators and as a profession, have to stand strong and say, no, we're not just about the bubbles and the circles and all that. We're going to have a life-changing impact on the students in front of us who will go on and have that impact in their communities, which of course ultimately influences the world. You can't measure a teacher's effectiveness with a standardized test score. Our effectiveness can only be measured through generations, because that's the kind of impact we have with our students inside of our schools and in our classrooms. And that's category 2. I apologize, I get a little wound up sometimes. Okay. Category 3. Completely outside of my profession. What am I passionate about? These are your personal passions. Now some people have a problem with this one. Like, this time you've gone too far. I was with you on category 2, some pretty inspirational stuff. By category 3, you've gone too far. You see, I've got a line that I draw right here. Here is my personal life, and here's my professional life, and I do not like to mix the two. I believe this is a mistake. I believe that what is unique about you, your particular strengths and talents, and your voice that you add to your classroom or your role in the system is what makes you most powerful and effective with students and staff. Okay? Not only does it make you most effective, it also helps to personalize you for your students. Many teachers can identify with this scenario, I'll check you. Have you ever been in that spot where you see one of your students outside of the school setting and they're like shocked to see you? It's almost like they're running through a sliding glass door or something, right? Like I'm at the movies and all of a sudden it's just like, Mr. Burgess, what are you doing here? And I say, well actually, Stephen, I am a human being. I exist outside the 4 walls of my classroom. I don't sleep in the cupboards or anything. I've got a life. Now they might be surprised to hear this. I think I hear this less often than most. Certainly less often than I used to, because I've gone out of my way to try to personalize my class. I'm trying to bring more of myself to work every day. Hey, we're at work too high of a percentage of our lives to unplug ourselves when we walk through the doors of the building, right? So like my category 3, I'm passionate about magic, I'm passionate about sports. Within sports, basketball, I'm coaching basketball. I'm passionate about chess, I'll lead up. I'm passionate about my family. And so these are things that I'm trying to use maybe magic to demonstrate a point. Maybe that's sports, analogy or example, or that anecdote about my children. In other words, I want my students to graduate, not just knowing my curriculum, I want them to graduate knowing me as well. That's part of developing rapport and relationships with kids and having them come to see you as a human being, right? Now, I'll give you an example of how this might look in my classroom. Let's say that I'm teaching the Revolutionary War and famous characters from the Revolutionary War. And I pull a deck of cards out. Now, hopefully I already have a little better engagement because, well, I just pulled a deck of cards out, okay? All right. And so I might come through and say, hi, what's your name?
Lana.
Lana? Hi, Lana. My name's Dave. Lana, I have 52 Continental Soldiers right here. Would you just reach in here and grab any Continental Soldier that you like? Anyone's fine. That one? Okay. Go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to turn my head this way. And if you can hold it up and give it a slow turn, nice and high, for people that are near enough for you to see it, to be able to see it. I use jumbo indexes so more can see, hopefully. Lana, can I turn back around now? Okay, Lana, I'm just going to go through the cards like this. You can tell me when you want me to stop. Right there, go ahead and put up. Okay, if you'll take your hand, wave it over the top and say, Benedict Arnold. Like, you mean it, Lana! Oh, it was better the second time. Actually, a lot of things in life are like that. All right, now, so, Lana, if you have any sort of magical ability whatsoever, you've taken one card and one card only and turned it into a Benedict Arnold. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold was one of our best guys. He was instrumental in the win at Saratoga that convinced France to enter the war on our side. Becomes disillusioned with the Continental Congress, passed over for promotion. I tell the whole story about how Benedict Arnold becomes one of the most infamous traitors in American history, right? And I'll say, so Lana, if you have any sort of magical ability whatsoever, you take a one card and one card only and turn it into a Benedict Arnold, into a traitor, into a lobsterback, into, dare I say, a red coat. One card and one card only. It's the only one in the deck. Turns into a red coat, a Benedict Arnold, a traitor to its kind, a Benedict Arnold card. But Lana, it's only cool if it's your card. So, in a loud, clear voice, what was the name of your card? Ace of Clubs? Let's check it out. The Ace of Clubs, the Benedict Arnold card. Give it up for Lana. That's not the end of the story, because what happened next is also super important. So please don't look away for any reason. Okay? We're going to try this one more time now that we know what we're doing. How about, no, right there. What's your name?
Brady.
Brady, if you're talking to anyone, please stop.
Stop.
Little early. It's okay, we'll work with it. I'm going to swing it this way. I'll walk it back towards the cheap seats a little bit. Let's show it to the street. We'll swing it this way for you over here. This is where you realize your eyes aren't nearly as good as they used to be. You're going to have to believe us. Brady, if you'll wave your hands over the card and say, towards the card and say, Benedict Arnold.
Benedict Arnold.
Did you guys feel that?
No.
It's so rare that I have to say that person twice.
Come on. Benedict Arnold!
That was better. All right. Brady, if you have any sort of magical ability whatsoever, you take a one card and one card only and turn it into a Benedict Arnold, into a traitor, into someone whose name is now synonymous with being a traitor. Like if someone calls you a Benedict Arnold, that's what they're calling you. They're calling you a traitor. One card and one, there should be one red card. I must have missed it when I looked up. One card and one card only turns into a traitor, a Benedict Arnold, a lot. Well, there is one red card, but that was yours. What was your card again?
Ace of Clubs.
Ace of Clubs. Did you also select the Ace of Clubs?
No.
Awkward. What did you select?
King of Diamonds.
The King of Diamonds? You don't think that maybe, I don't even want to touch it, this kind of stuff scares me. Will you go check it out? The King of Diamonds! The King of Diamonds. But see, we didn't catch Benedict Arnold. We got into a ship, became an officer in the British military. I finished all my content about Benedict Arnold, okay? Now, before we continue, let me just test the air in Louisiana. Do you know what that's called?
A boomerang.
Middle-aged man with too much time on his hands. Okay, all right, now, there's several things going on here. First of all, I'm kind of excited to come to school on this day because I'm incorporating my outside passion for magic into my classroom. This is not about you going out and buying a card magic book. This is about you looking for ways that you can incorporate some of your passions in the way you do, whether it's for music or art, scrapbooking or technology or fitness or sports or guitar, whatever it might be. There's ways that you can bring more of yourself into your classroom, not only become more fulfilled, more passionate, but also more personalized for kids. You're building rapport and relationships because you're sharing some of yourself as part of what you do in your classroom. But there's something else going on here too. If I've developed an engaging presentation to teach Benedict Arnold, students are going to get what Harry Lorraine refers to as original awareness. This sounds kind of silly, but what he means is they're going to hear it and get it the first time. Okay? Not only that, I have embedded a mnemonic device into this presentation. What happens to the card is what happened to Benedict Arnold. He became a redcoat. So there's some mnemonic structure, some memory structure to this, right? And so if students see Benedict Arnold on their test, they don't just have my words to go on. They took part in something. They're like, Benedict Arnold, oh wait, we waved our hand, oh, the card turned red. He's the traitor. He's the one who became the traitor, right? I call this putting handles on material to make it easier to pick up. Whenever we can, we want to put handles on material to make it easier for kids to pick up and take with them, right? Let me give you an example of this. Let's say that we meet someone for the first time. And it's like, hi, my name's Dave. And then they say what their name is. And then 10 seconds later, a third person enters the conversation that you know, but that the person you just met 10 seconds ago does not know. It's now the polite thing for you to do, to introduce this person entering the conversation to the person that you just met 10 seconds ago. But you can't do that, can you? Why can't you do that? You don't even remember the name that was told to you 10 seconds before, even though technically we will all agree we heard it with our ears, but we did not engage with it in any way. We did not use any strategies to remember it. We did not think about how we were going to remember it or that we needed to remember it. And so it was, as we say in this business, in one ear and out the other. Now let's assume that we're all reasonably intelligent people in this room. Not a lot of laughter, that's good. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, and yet we can agree, from personal experience even, that we can forget something told to us 10 seconds before, unless we somehow engage with that material or use a strategy to remember it. And yet, we get so upset with kids when they forget something on a test. Like 2 months later, we're like, oh my God, how could they forget that? Like, I remember teaching that class as sure as day. I mean, it was the 7th bullet point on my PowerPoint slides. It was bullet point number 7. How could they forget that one? Forget that one, right? So as often as we can, we want to provide that engaging presentation for students so they get that original awareness, and then we put those handles on it to make it easier for them to pick up and take with it. And all of that is going to lead to us being able to create lesson experiences. We'll have kids leaving our class with that was our class is about, which is what we want. Now, if you can take all 3 categories of that passion together, your content passion of category 1, your professional passions of category 2, and some of your personal passions of category 3, and combine them all together, that's when you become uncompromising and relentless in the pursuit of excellence and greatness, and you're able to sail over those obstacles that a lot of other teachers crash into and burn out. Hey, this is tough stuff that we do, right? You have to find something more to care about than just those circles at the end of the year. And so that's the P of the pirate system. Now, normally, right now, I would go straight to the hooks and model and demonstrate some of these hooks for you as if you're the actual students in my class. But this morning, I'm going to do it in a little different order. Because as I've been scanning across your faces doing the passion piece, I've noticed that there are several of you in here, who can't seem to concentrate at the level that you need to this morning. Because you're still focused on this sun. So I thought I would go ahead and just address this now. I would like to tell you the #1 top secret way to become a better lover. Now, admittedly, this was a little awkward for a teaching workshop, but this is part of life, and I want you to be happy. By the way, I did this presentation once, and there was a married couple in the front row who worked together at the school, and I could just read in his entire body language that he was thinking, "Oh, I don't need this part of the workshop." And I could read in hers that she was thinking, "I sure hope he's paying attention to this part of the workshop." Okay. So, but before I do this, I want to do a little disclaimer. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable or harassed or anything like that in any sort of way in a work setting. So if you're someone who feels like you're going to be uncomfortable around a pretty graphic discussion of sexuality, I mean, we're going to get into some techniques and stuff. I might ask that you excuse yourself for a couple minutes, and then when we return, we'll move on to the hooks portion of the workshop. So if anyone who feels like they're going to be uncomfortable during this, please feel free to excuse yourself at this point, and we'll let you know when you come in. My people! All right. Well, then let's do this. The #1 top secret way to become a better lover is this. There's a book called Stranger in a Strange Land. And in this book, there's a character named Mike. And Mike is from a different world. And Mike has come to Earth. And Mike has had an encounter, a relationship with a woman on Earth that she's found absolutely, completely amazing and overwhelming. To the point where her friend is grilling her, like, what is it about Mike? Like, what is it about being with Mike that's so amazing? And she feels frustrated at her inability to put it into words. And then finally, in that state of frustration, she just says, and this is a direct quote from the book, "When Mike's kissing you, he isn't doing anything else. You're his whole universe." And her friend was like, and this is what was so amazing about Mike, is his unbelievable ability to immerse himself in the unfolding moment of whatever he was doing. So that if Mike was kissing you or doing anything with you, you knew the whole rest of the world ceased to exist. Every part of his being, every cell, fiber, every part of his soul was immersed, committed into each unfolding moment with you. And to be with someone who's so fully able to immerse in the unfolding moment is almost magical in nature. It has a magnetic pull to it. It has a hypnotic quality. See, I would love to have one of my students say a similar thing about me. Stick with me on this, it starts off sounding creepy. Okay, so I would love for them to get out on campus and have one of their friends come up to them and say like, hey, I keep hearing these crazy stories about Mr. Burgess's class. Like, what is it like being in that guy's class every day? And for them to be frustrated at their inability to put into words. And then finally, in that state of frustration, for them just to say, okay, when he's teaching you, he isn't doing anything else. You're his whole universe. I think that's something that kids can feel on a really deep level. I think it's something they can feel the opposite of as well, even though they might not be able to put their finger on it. So one of the most powerful things that we can do as educators is no matter what's going on in our life, the school, the district, the community, the nation, our ability for when the door closes and the bell rings, to unplug all of that and literally be in each unfolding moment of our class with our students, that is magic to them. Again, it's got that magnetic pull, it's got that hypnotic quality that will draw them in, even regardless of what else you do, that you pull that power to draw them in. And so the I in the pirate system stands for immersion. Now, I'll give you an example. This is kind of a silly example. Let's say there's a swimming pool up here, and you walk out onto the pool deck, and someone said, hey, I want you to focus on the pool. Well, now, focus is a powerful word. We use that as a powerful word all the time. But what would that look like? Would you come up to the pool and be like, as opposed to someone came out and said, hey, I want you to immerse yourself in the pool. What would that look like? You'd jump in. You'd be in the water. You'd be wet. You'd be swimming or drowning, depending upon your skill set. It's qualitatively different than even this powerful word called focus. So I think I can walk by a classroom a few times and tell you if there's a lifeguard on duty or a swimmer. A lifeguard has climbed into the tower and is supervising the pool deck, checking for safety violations, as opposed to a swimmer who's in the water with the kids. I love to walk by a classroom and no matter what's going on, you just get a sense that the teachers are part of the action. They're right in the middle of it. They're swimming. It's the number one top secret way to become a better lover, a better teacher, I think a better parent as well. And so the I in the pirate system stands for our immersion. And now, I do get to take you straight into my classroom and model and demonstrate some of these hooks for you as if you're the actual students in my class. So first I have to tell you a couple things. First of all, I told you already that I teach U.S. history and a bunch of you don't. That's okay. I like to look at it like playing guitar. Maybe you take lessons and someone shows you how to hold the guitar and how to strum and where to put your fingers to play some different chords and things like that, and some basic ideas in chord structure. And then some people will take those lessons and principles of chord structure and they'll go off and they'll eventually play rock and roll or jazz or classical or funk. Well, you know what? I happen to play a couple of U.S. history songs sometimes, but that's okay, because I'm really here to talk to you about chord structure. It's the chord structure behind these things that you're going to use no matter what it is that you teach or what level. So all of this is going to apply to you in the chord structure, okay? The other thing that I have to tell you is that I put some blue tape on the floor right here. This is going to be the front wall of my classroom. And then I put some blue tape on the floor right back there. This is going to be the back wall of my classroom. My classroom is exactly about 12 of my steps long, which is are going to be important. That brings us to a really important question. Are you ready to be my students? I don't know if I felt that. I don't know. Are you ready to be my students? Yeah. Okay, all right. Now, obviously, my classroom looks nothing like this. We're 40 people jammed inside of a small room with desks everywhere, individual. And so, even in a big space like this, I like to just kind of show you what it would kind of look like in a classroom, okay? So here you go. You are my students. In 3, 2, 1. Greed. Greed. Greed goes on the floor right here. The whole floor, from this wall to this wall, is now all represented by these words. So the whole floor is represented by greed. and corruption, corruption. You're far too nice to even look at this word. Don't even look down at that word. Corruption, corruption, and tyranny, the abuse of power. You can go ahead and look. Tyranny, the abuse of power, and despotism. More abuse of power goes right here. Listen, from this wall right here to that wall right there. The whole floor is greed, corruption, tyranny, and despotism. And then we take the red, the white, the blue, the government of the United States of America this represents, and we drag it through the greed, through the corruption, through the tyranny, and through the despotism. I would leave it down in these awful conditions. Well, we can't leave the government down in these conditions. Well, some people might argue that's where it is, but we can't leave the government down in these conditions. No, we need a hero to step forth. Someone from the crowd with one hand in one place, right here in the middle, to lift this government up out of these conditions. One hand in one place, no bunching in the road. Who is feeling especially heroic here today? Oh, thank you. And your name is? Lindsay. Lindsay, could you pick it up right in the middle, nice and high? I had to pick someone with a whole bunch of stuff on their back. I apologize. Lindsay! Lindsay, it's not that you're not a hero. Oh, you are. It's that one hero is not enough. Keep it up, keep it up. It's that one hero is not enough. We need another hero to step forth. Oh, hi, what's your name? Ashley. I don't know if you can see Ashley, but she was going, me, come on, pick me. All right. Ashley, if you can pick it up right here. Ladies and gentlemen, Ashley! Lindsay! Let's go see her on the ground right there. It's not that you're not heroes. Oh, you are. It's that two heroes is not enough. We need a third hero to step forth from this crowd. Hi, what's your name? Melissa. You saw that coming, you did, Melissa. All right, Melissa, if you can pick it up right here. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa! Let's go see on the other side. But three heroes, that is enough. You don't get any more heroes. How could you reposition yourself on this rope to try to get the whole thing off the ground? See, you can move now. You can move now, so you can get the whole thing off the ground. Every single bit of it's going to be off the ground. Keep going, keep going. Oh, you're in Mrs. Coda's room. You're in Mrs. Coda's room. You're in Mrs. Coda's room. She doesn't like that. Oh my God. If you knew Mrs. Coda, you wouldn't have gone there. Oh my God. She almost just got us killed. I'm more to the middle this way. Okay. And oh, look at this. And now she is bunching the rope. A bunch of cheaters all perish. Oh my goodness. Now I'm just going to turn my head this way because I very clearly remember saying just use one hand and I'm not a very stable person. If I turn back around and they're still using two hands, I don't know what I'm going to do. Is she bunching the rope? So Louisiana is where the cheaters are. All right, wait, hold on. Do they have them off the ground? Give them a round of applause. In order for them to get this rope, this government, about these conditions of corruption and tyranny, it took three of them. Two of them would not have been able to do it no matter where they were gone, as you can see. It took three. But it wasn't just important that there were three, because when they first started out, they had three, but they were too close together and it didn't work. It wasn't until what did they have to do? Spread out, kind of separate. There had to be some separation. You know, our government works a little bit like this. There are three branches of government that keep us out of these conditions of corruption and tyranny, but it's not just important that there's three. It's the separation between them that also is important, right? Like you might represent the executive branch where the president is and his cabinet advisors. Know that you're connected to both of them. It's all one government. But there's a separate part of it that you control. And you might represent the legislative branch where the Congress is. The House will say, well, you're connected to her. You're connected to her. It's one government, but a separate part that you control. And you might represent the judicial branch, right? Content. Okay? You guys can set that down right where it is. And give them a round of applause for that. There's several things going on here, which is why I put this one first. I call this hook swimming with the sharks. Because I think there's a tendency in our profession for content to be delivered up here and for content to be received out there. And so when you design a hook which breaks the norm of what happens in the classroom, it's more engaging because of the novelty factor. So any of these things done every day will lose their novelty factor. These are ideas you throw into an ever-growing presentational toolbox. So part of the course structure of this, if you really saw in my classroom, is I'm stepping in between their desks, over top their backpacks, right through the middle of them. Kids are going like, what's Mr. Bridges doing back here? And I'm giving some content here, some back here. There's no front of the room. There's no back of the room. We're just all in this space learning together. So it's breaking down that artificial barrier between teacher space and student space. But there's something else going on here too. Here's what I could have done. When they got the rope off the ground, I could have said, hey, is it off the ground? All right, give them a round of applause. Head back to your seats. Okay, please notice that we needed 3. Do you think you can stop texting? I see the phone right there in your lap. All right, so do you notice? Could you finish that conversation later, please? Okay, notice how many times do I have to tell you to stop talking? Can I continue now? What just happened to me? I lost them by incorporating a transition in between the peak moment of engagement and the key content. Always deliver your key content at the peak moment of engagement. Any separation of those moments is a loss of power. I'm looking for a magical moment. Sometimes it's verbally expressed, sometimes it's just body language that you see on kids. Where we're laughing, we're having fun in class, and all of a sudden it's like, he's teaching us. Like, I wasn't gonna learn today. Like, oh, that's man, right? I think as I do the rest of these, you'll see that tipping point for kids, where it goes from like, oh, this is kind of fun. It's like, oh, wait a second, I just learned. Like, any more of this, and I'm going to get educated. Okay. So in other words, you have to master not only the art of gaining student engagement, you have to master the art of not losing it as well. And transitions will kill you. That's when behavior management issues crop up. That's when you have to go to the trouble of re-engaging all over again. So don't go to the trouble of adding a pirate hook to your class to put it in the palm of your hands, only then to just squander the moment. But there's something else going on here that's way more important than that. I'm going to redo the beginning part of this lesson before we got to those volunteers, and you tell me what you think. I am so excited for you to see a second way to do this presentation. All right, you are my students. In 3, 2, 1. I went to Office Depot and bought some file folders and cut them in half with scissors and wrote some words on them. This one's got greed, so greed goes on the floor right here. The whole floor from wall to wall is all represented by this stuff. This one's corruption. This is tyranny, which is not good. And this is despotism, which we definitely don't want. Then I went to Home Depot and bought some rope. I found this red, white, and blue stuff. So this will be like the government of the United States or something. Let me just throw this out here. Well, I just put the government down in some pretty bad stuff. Who wants to pick it up? Is that the same lesson? Let's talk about this. It's got all of the features of the same lesson. If you read this in some program guide or curriculum booklet, that's the lesson. That is not the same lesson. No, it's not the same. It's not even close to the same lesson. Now, it's not the same lesson. What was missing that time? Passion, enthusiasm, showmanship, charisma, a little intensity, all the things that we sometimes have to have in front of kids these days. So sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it that's more important. I know districts that spend millions of dollars on the latest grades and everything. Missing the point, that's not where the magic is. The magic is with you. You are the magic. In fact, I look at it like this. If you were coming to my house for barbecue, you could consider yourself pretty lucky. I do some pretty good barbecue, especially by the way if you happen to like things like grilled steaks, okay? Which I know you don't consider barbecue, but that's a different story. All right, so grilled steaks. So you see me working at the grill, and I'm just working, and you're getting hungrier and hungrier, right? And then finally, I bring your plate to you. And this is all that I have for you on your plate. You're not going to be very happy with me right now. There's something majorly wrong with this picture. What is wrong with this picture? It's raw. It's uncooked. This isn't edible for you right now. You know why? Because I never turned on the propane. I never brought any heat to this. It could be the finest piece of steak in the world, but it's still not edible for you unless I turn on the propane, unless I bring a little heat, a little energy to it. Same thing is true in education, where you can have the finest content in the world, but it's still not edible for kids unless you turn on the propane and put a real heat, a little energy to it. Oh, and by the way, if you were really coming to hospital steak, I would have contacted you before you got there to find out if you even eat steak, and if you didn't eat steak, I would have provided you a suitable alternative. Okay, but that's a different workshop. That's a different workshop. But even if you did eat steak before you got there, I would have put a little rub and seasoning on this, and I would soak it in a flavorful marinade. And before I put it on, I would preheat my grill. I don't put my steak down on a cold grill. I preheat my grill. And probably I would turn it over and I would base the other side, and I would serve you. I would offer you some side dishes to go with it, a beverage or drink, and all that was done. I would offer you dessert, and that's what we would call a meal. That's what we would call a dining experience together. But too often in education, people try to convince you that the rub, the seasoning, the marinating, the preheating, the grill, the basting, the side dishes, the beverages, and especially that dessert. Those things are a waste of time because they're not the meat of the lesson. They're not the content standard of the lesson. But those presentational touches that we have, that richness, that music, that art, that drama, that kinesthetic activity, that project, that technology, those things are not a waste of time. Those things are an investment of time that will pay dividends over and over again, because those are kind of things when added to a meal, people enjoy it, they want to come back and dine with you again. And when added to a lesson, make kids enjoy it, they want to come back and learn with you again. See, I see too many teachers that know everything about their content. Oh my God, they know so much about their content. And then they walk into class like this. Eat it! And frustrated by the lack of engagement and behavior management issues and all that, because they know how good this is, and this might rightly be good, but they didn't really take the time and energy to add that richness to it to make kids want to come there to begin with. So I don't know your content the way you know your content. You are the content area experts. What I happen to know is I happen to know rub seasonings, marinades, preheating grills, side dishes, beverages, and desserts. They'll make them want to come there and learn with you and not be able to wait to come back the next day to learn some more. And so that's a big part of what Team Checkup hired us about, is adding that richness to our lessons that just flat out make kids want to come to school. Right. That's called drop me the steak. Okay, now, I know what you're thinking. If all the hooks are this long, this guy's never finishing today. You might be right, but I have to address all that. I like to always address all that stuff right up in the front. Now, before I do another hook for you though, I want to address something that's a little bit on the awkward side. I think there's a major wrong turn happening in education right now. And I think it's something that's spun out of control even in just the last couple of years. So whenever I can get in front of a group of educators, I like to talk about it. But my take on this direction in education is kind of controversial. And so I always contact schools, districts, conferences before I show up and just say, hey, I know you didn't read this in my book, but I would like to talk to your educators about this. I did that in this case. And I was contacted back in about, I think it was about 10 minutes. And in nicer words, they basically said, please don't. And I understand exactly where they're coming from. Because they're responsible to get you enthusiastic and embracing a certain direction and vision, which in a sense has been handed to them. And so if I come here as a sponsor speaker and I say I think this direction that the state is taking is wrong, it doesn't make much sense for them to bring me in because that undermines their work, right? And so we had about a 10-email exchange where I tried to explain why I thought it was the elephant in the room right now, and especially in Louisiana, my state too. And so let's just talk about it. And their point was it's just unnecessarily divisive. Some people have bought into this direction, some people haven't. Why have an opening event that's divisive? We want to bring people together. And so we've kind of come to a way of hopefully addressing this without being divisive. And they want me to start by saying that I'm just one teacher from San Diego. I'm an outsider. So I don't know the whole political education dynamic of your state. But from an outsider's perspective, I think the number one mistake in direction that you're taking here, and trust me, you're not alone, is that if you buy in any of these teach like a pirate kind of ideas, I also think you should buy into the idea that you should have nothing to do with, I mean that seriously, nothing to do with anything right now concerning, that's the taboo hook. I'm sorry to have done that to you, it's messed up, all right? That's the taboo hook. If you tell someone they're not supposed to hear something, they will knock down walls to hear it, okay? It's human nature. This works from adult learners, as some of you maybe just found out, to kindergarten and below, right? Okay? So the taboo hook is when you position content in such a way that maybe it's, you're not supposed to hear it. Maybe it's secretive. Maybe it's privileged information that they're going to get to hear but nobody else. Maybe, depending on the age you teach, maybe it's illicit or appropriate possibly. Or all these things make people want to know stuff all the more. Again, it's human nature. Now, I use the taboo hook all the time. In this case, it ties into the next hook, which is the board message hook. Did I have a board message for you today?
Yes.
Is it also a taboo hook?
Yes.
That's a board message taboo hook designed for an adult audience. Now, that shows you that first of all, you don't use hooks individually. You layer hooks. It's not one hook and you're done for the day. You layer hooks into everything that you do over and over and over again. So that's a board message taboo hook designed for an adult audience. Now, here's how I define board message. What could I write on my board or shine on my screen that would spark a conversation or create a buzz before the bell even rings? Again, that's preheating the grill. I do not put my steak on a cold grill. When you drop your steak on a cold grill, what happens? Nothing. When you drop your steak on a preheated grill, what happens? It sizzles. I want my content to sizzle when I drop it. So I always preheat the grill, put enough mystery, curiosity, buzz, anticipation before I begin, right? Always preheat the grill. Now I'm going to ask you 3 questions about this. Please answer honestly by raising your hands. And look around the room so you get a sense of numbers on this one, okay? All right, question 1. Now, please be honest. How many of you read that before I started speaking this morning? Raise your hand. Look around.
I did not.
So basically everyone, except for a few people that aren't telling the truth, right? Okay. Question 2. Please be honest. How many of you have said something to someone else today about this right here? Raise your hand. Now, a strange condition just came over several of you. I refer to it as T-Rex arms. Because in the first one you answered like this. And the next one, all of a sudden, you were a T-Rex. You have these little arms that couldn't get out. Third question. Please be honest and answer with great big pterodactyl arms. In a room this size, I'm hoping for at least 2 or 3. We'll see, 2 or 3. How many of you have taken a picture of this right here? Oh, I easily got it. All right. Some people text it to a significant other and say, look what weather it is today. Then they get that text back. Hurry home. Take good notes. Was there a response yet? Let's keep it that way so you can concentrate. So this is a board message that was designed for an adult audience. Okay, now the next one actually overlaps with taboo hook as well. I'm sorry to put another taboo hook this close to the beginning of the workshop, but this is my presentation for the mystery bag. Now my presentation for the mystery bag might offend you. I don't say that to try to hook you. I say that because it might offend you. And the idea that I do this with kids might offend you. But please understand that my students are about 17 years old before they would see what I'm about to show you. It's toward the end of the year, and I have good rapport with them. So you have to think about the age that you teach and the community values of where you teach before you can decide how edgy to be. Plus, I have this thing in California that's called tenure. Okay, so anyway, all right. So even if you are offended by this, which I guarantee you some of you will be, understand that afterwards, I will show you the chord structure behind it that you can use with any age kid in any community. Okay, so I'll show you the chord structure that makes it work. All right? And so with that being said, it's going to be a little edgy, but here we go. You are my students. In 3, 2, 1. I've thought a long time about whether or not you're mature enough to handle what I want to show you today. I think by this point of the year you are. But I know we kid around a lot in here. But today I'm just going to kind of ask you to crank the maturity level up a couple notches. Because what I'm going to show you, to be perfectly honest, is far too sexual for some things you'll probably see in school. This is the kind of stuff that gets teachers fired. Probably especially in Louisiana. Okay, all right. Oh, I don't think I should show this. Well, I guess I'm just going to pull it out. Actually, before I do, I want to remind you about what I said on the first day of school. What happens in SS9
Stays in SS9.
I don't need you running home and telling your parents about this one. Actually, Steve, will you close the blinds? Yeah, just leave them all the way across. Thank you. I can't believe I'm going to show you this. That is hot. Okay, there's going to be no bathroom passes for 10 minutes. I'm not even sure how you pick these things up. But here it is. Oh, Victoria did have a secret. And it looks like this. Finally. O-M-G. Oh, why would somebody burn a bra? Oh, what does a bra do? Hold on, I'm back with you. Now, if you ask a question like that of a group of 17-year-old kids, you better be ready for a really graphic answer. You can't get them in trouble right now, because you just took them to the edge of a cliff with a blindfold on, basically, and shouted out, go! And they went, oh! And so I would acknowledge and redirect, oh, that's funny, but no, seriously, what does a bra? No, I heard you, but I might use that next period, but what does a bra do? Okay, I'm going to acknowledge and redirect, I'm going to bring them back, oh, he's serious, okay. I'm going to get answers like, oh, like, well, it holds your breast back, it restrains your breast. Like, well, what did we just learn about in the 1950s that made women feel like they were being restrained or held back in some way? Oh, the baby boom was going on, that's right. Growth of the suburbs was happening, yeah, that's true. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Well, you know what? In the 60s, there was a backlash against some of these conservative values in the 50s. And one of the symbolic gestures that some women did was, we'll talk about the symbolic nature of a bra burning. This is my hook, actually, literally. This is my hook for being discussed the women's liberation movement in the 1960s with my class. Now, a couple key points. First of all, I don't care who walks in my room right now. Yes, there will be an awkward moment. But then what they will hear is an entirely appropriate and historically accurate discussion about some things influencing women in the 50s and the 60s reaction to that I want to talk to them about. That's important to know. Even when you use the taboo hook in an edgy way, depending on the age that you teach, you are of course not actually inappropriate with your students. Much like, is there anything inappropriate that I told you as adults about being in a better life? It was about being in the moment of what you do in life. It was positioned as if, whoa, what's that doing in a teaching workshop, right? So we're talking positioning, we're not talking about being inappropriate. Now, I know you're not going to pull a bra out of here. So the core instruction behind this, before I tell it to you, I'm going to do a little review for you based on what we've learned already, all right? So I'm going to redo the reveal of the bra out of the last bag a second way, and the lead into the content a second way, and you tell me which one is better. So you saw the first way, here's the second way, right? Last bag. Laughter, laughter, laughter. Why would somebody burn a bra? How was that time? Horrific, because it incorporated that transition in between the peak moment engagement and the key content. Always looking for your best, have to take away that there was nothing else. I want to know this kind of stuff at the peak moment engagement. Think about what I had to do to bring that hook to my class. I had to burn a bra, and it was not easy. I had one of those long barbecue lifters that you push with your thumb like this, and a little flame pops out, and I couldn't get it to light. So I took it to the backyard, put it on the ground, so I could hold the flame down on it. And then when it did light, it just kind of fizzled out from the lacing. In order to get it burnt to that level, it took me like 15 minutes and a sore thumb. Let me just tell you something right now. If any of you in here wear that kind of bra right there, you are so safe. You can just walk through flames. Not only that, they should make whole suits out of that stuff. But not only that, I had to go into Victoria's Secret like a creeper. The only man in the whole store. And come up to the counter and be like, hi, this is a little strange, but their bags. Just the bags, sir? No. It's actually critical that they be in 3 different sizes. Well, why do you just need different size bags? Well, you see, I'm a high school teacher. Okay. And do you think you could point me to the section of bras that might be flammable? Okay. I'm lucky I didn't get arrested on this day. Okay. I'm not going to go through all that when it's appropriate transition. I'm going to deliver my key content at the peak moment engagement when I'm supposed to. All right, so what's the core structure behind this? It's very simple. I am openly hiding something from you. I'm building up the fact that you don't know what it is. And then I'm revealing it. And the moment I go like this, all eyes will be right here. Why? Again, it's human nature. Find moments in life that are engaging, add them to your class. Christmas presents, birthday presents, like they work under the same principle. What feature do we add to a present to make it more engaging? We wrap it. That's why we do that, because it makes you want to know what's inside and you can't see it. If they're all unopened for a couple weeks ahead of time, it wouldn't be a big deal to come out in the morning. It's the idea that you don't know what it is, and you pick it up. What do? You see how heavy it is. You make guesses about it. You shake it maybe. And the peak moment engagement is you have to pull that paper back and see it for the first time. It's not just engaging for you, it's engaging for everyone else who's watching your reaction to it as well, right? So at its most basic level, just like a really basic level. If you had a rap president understand when kids walk in, probably as many kids you have would drive you crazy with questions like, is this someone's birthday today? Is it your birthday? Can I touch it? Can I pick it up? When are we going to open it? Do you know what's inside? It would drive you crazy. What about this? Let's say you went to the office and you say, hey, will you deliver me this package at this particular time today? Just pretend that you have no idea what it is, but I want it to be coming to my room at this time. So you set it up, right? And then you're teaching your class, and like, the door swings like, oh, what is this? A delivery for me? Interesting. Like, oh, God, this is what could be so heavy in a box like this? There's no return address. That's weird. I didn't order anything. Just can't imagine what would be so heavy in a box like that. All right, well, so what we were just talking about was that, actually, do you mind if we just take a second and peek inside this? It's just so strangely heavy. What would they say? Actually, if you're in the first 2 rows, if you could just move to the back wall, please. Just safety. There's another box inside. Mr. Bridges, there's a note on the other side. Do not open until 10:15. It's 10:03. That's really weird. Okay, so what we just wrote down was, well, what do you think would happen if it, that's exactly what would happen at 10:15, right? Why? Because it's human nature. Again, find moments in life that are engaging, add them to what you do in your classroom. Mystery, curiosity, buzz, anticipation. What wonderful words to add to our classroom. We can put kids on the edge of their seats to see stuff that we wanted to show them all along anyway. All right, now, the next hook is props. I can sum up my thought on props in 2 words. As is my nature, I will not, but I could. It would sound like this: props. Have them. All right, let's move on. Now, by the way, if you present with technology, images, have them. Get rid of that 247 bullet point PowerPoint and add more images. Images engage, bullet points put to sleep. When a new image pops on the screen, I kind of want to see what it is. When your 5th bullet point drops, I'm not with you anymore. Right? So images, but props. I don't even want to do this earlier part of my workshop if I don't have this with me. What am I going to say? Picture I have a raw steak in my hand right now. What would be wrong with this picture? No, you're adults, but I still want to have the steak. I want to talk about the rub, the seasoning, the marinade. I want you to hear this sound. I want to slide it across the table, eat it. Like, that's important to me, to the point where I don't check anything that's used in my workshop. I have an over-shoulder bag and a computer bag. They do not separate from me, because I have to have my stuff. I go through airport security nightmares to get this everywhere I go, okay? Listen to it. I've learned that I have to take it out and I put it with my wallet, cell phone, and keys. It causes a stir at every single airport, okay? Every time they pull the tray back, sometimes they're laughing about it, throwing it around. Other times they're very serious about it. They're doing like a little swipe testing on it and checking my palms, okay? You have to understand, I don't want to get searched. If I get searched, it's not a good thing. I've got burnt bras in there and everything. Okay? I've got some explaining to do. I don't want to get searched. Okay, all right. So I've got a prop down here in my pocket, by the way. It's the single most important thing I'm going to show you. It takes the whole Teach Like a Pirate system, sums it up, and fits in the palm of my hand. Imagine something that takes a book, a workshop, a movement, sums it up, and fits in the palm of my hand. I forgot this once on a 3-day trip through Mobile, Alabama. And I beat myself up every single day because I know I ended every program less powerfully than I could have because I didn't have this. I can't wait for you to see this. This is going to be the last thing you see today. That's true, it's the last thing you see. All right, props, have them. All right, now, the next one is music. I can sum up my thoughts on music very quickly. It's too powerful to ignore. One song can change the whole dynamic of a room of people. One song. It is way too powerful to ignore. I use music as bumper music coming in and out of my class. I want to enter my space to feel different. Hustle, bustle, drama of the hallway. You open the door, come Mr. Burgess. Oh, Mr. Burgess' class. This is a different space I'm in now, right? I use music to help me accomplish that, right? I use music in transitions. I use music to influence mood. I can bring them up through music. I can calm them down through music. I use music that has anything lyrically related to what we're talking about. I use music as a history teacher. I use period music. Plus anything I can teach through song, I teach through song. I'm a high schooler. Anything I can teach through song, I teach through song. Some of the most memorable stuff we learn in life, we learn through a song. Okay? And so things like art and music, that's not something just for kids to do only when they're in this part of the building over here, or during a certain hour of the day. Things like art, music, technology, like when they're woven throughout the whole curriculum. That's when school comes alive for kids. It helps them process things in different ways and develop that creative spirit. So the cross-curricular approach to education and the blending and weaving of things like art and music and technology and all that through the curriculum is a big part of the Teach Like a Pirate system. Now, I'm only going to do one more hook for you before I try to set a world record and then send you to break. But let me just tell you something. When we come back from break, I'm going to be doing the A of Pirate, and that's when I go off. In fact, I've been very calm up here this morning, but when I do the A of Pirate, that's when I go off. In fact, if I ever die in a workshop, it's going to be doing the A of Pirate. It might just say on my tombstone someday, die telling the 6 words. And if I have to die, I want to die telling teachers the 6 words. That's how passionate I am about it, right? Like, you know how I've been speaking kind of slow up to this point? When I get to the A of Pirate, that's when I ramp the words per minute up to astronomical levels. That's when I truly go off. But first, one more hook. It's called teasers. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Hey, what's down here in my pocket? Only the most important thing I'm going to show you today. Takes all this, sums it up. Fits in the palm of my hand. Can't wait for you to see it. I do it all the time. When you go to the movies these days, you don't even see the movie for like 20 minutes. What do you see? Previews, trailers. Do you know why? Because they work. They make people want to see what's coming out. Well, I work hard to make kids want to see my class. I'm building up my lunar landing and my 60s party from the first week of school. I'm talking about that lunar landing and that 60s party. I'm always saying stuff like, hey, you don't want to miss school on Friday. There's going to be a guest speaker. Quickly they learn that means I'm dressing up. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. But one word. Tights. Oh God, we don't want to see that. Right? Hey, don't change the doctor's appointment to be there, okay? Or Wednesday of next week, the whole room's going to be transformed into a different world. You won't recognize a thing. And there's going to be a guest speaker here to greet you. I think you're going to really like her. He's going to be a woman on Wednesday. He's going to be a woman on Wednesday. This is about creating this whole party system. This is the place to be. This is where the action happens, right? Mr. Burgess, I love your class. You love my class. This is first semester. Wait till we get to second semester. When we get to that lunar landing where it's so dark in here you can't even see your hands in front of your face, and the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon music is playing. And I'm pitching, I'm marketing and selling my stuff. I know this works. Taylor Pills was a student in my U.S. history class. On the 3rd week of school, she came to the checkout papers. I'm like, Taylor, why are you leaving my class? She's like, well, Mr. Burgess, I don't don't want to leave, but I was struggling in math and they moved me to a lower level. And it threw my schedule all off. And now counseling says you don't have an open U.S. history that fits the open spot on my schedule. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry to see you go. But Mr. Johnson's a great teacher, you're going to love him. But stop by and say hi sometimes. Well, off my Taylor, right? 3 days later, in walks Taylor Pills to another period of my U.S. history with check-in papers. I'm signing them back in. I'm like, Taylor, I thought you said you couldn't get back in my class. And she's like, oh, Mr. Burgess, I went back to counseling. This time with my mom. She was yelling, I was crying. I found out there was this big scene in the counseling department and did all these things to her schedule, including giving her a different elective, and she got back in my class. And this was her exact quote. She said, Mr. Burgess, I told my mom I'm not going to miss that 60s party. This was the 3rd week of school, but I had pitched, promoted, marketed, and sold into the point where she wanted to make sure she was a part of it. So marketing, salesmanship, the art of the pitch, promotion, they're all proper tools in a teacher's toolbox. We're all in the PR department for education in our classes. And marketers use many of these same techniques to sell billions of dollars of products to our kids. And most of it is bad for them. We're selling something life transformational, which is education, so we can tap into their same principles to create schools that have kids running to get to us the way they're running to get to some of these products and services they see marketed so well. Now, the last thing before break is me trying to set a world record for you. Would you like to see a world record?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a world record. My God. Would you like to see a world record?
Yeah.
Okay. I cannot guarantee you're going to see a world record. All I can guarantee you for sure is that you're going to see a world record attempt. Okay? Now, my world record is 28.7 seconds. No, not for that. Okay. That record is 35.6. Okay. Now, what I can do with a two-digit number in 28.7 seconds would boggle the mind. I'm going to need help from somebody, and I'm going to go right through you, sir. What's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel, will you give me any two-digit number over 30?
32.
32. Would you like to change your mind? Happy with the mind you have? Okay, all right. So Daniel, freely selected number 32. Any two-digit number over 30, he said 32. Put that big target on the back. Now, does someone have a stopwatch, either on their phone or on the... Who could time this for me? What's the time for it? You got me right there? What is your name?
Shelby.
Shelby's going to time for me. Shelby, are you all set? Okay, here's what's going to happen. When I tell you to go, you're going to start it. But do me a favor. When it gets to 10 seconds, you can kind of go like, 10, so I know where I'm at, okay? And when it gets to 20 seconds, you can decide what to say. But hopefully it sounds something like, 20. So 32, huh? Oh, by the way, I should show you the other side. The other side just has some lines on it, otherwise blank. Okay? 32. On your marks. Get set, go. Stop. What was that?
13.
13 seconds? Are you kidding me? I just shaved over 15 seconds off the world record. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Now, what?
What was the...
Oh, you want to see? You don't trust me? Is it because I'm from California? Yeah. So, all right. So I just tried to see if in 13 seconds, 13 seconds with a freely called number from the audience, who gave me my number? Yeah. With a freely called number from the audience, whether I could write some rows of numbers that add up to 32. I don't always get it right, but let's see how I did. That's 25 and 30. Oh, I got 32 across the top one. That's 7 and 17 and 15. That's 32 across there. That's cool. 11, 23 and that. Oh, I got 32 on that one. And 13 is 21, 26. I got 31 across there too. And that was in 13 seconds with a freely called number. Thank you guys very much. Don't patronize me if you're copying. I know what you're thinking, but you don't want to say anything in case it embarrasses the speaker. You're wondering about the up and down too. course you're wondering about the up and down. So let's take a look and see. That's 15 right there and 19, 13, that's 32 right there, that's 14, 17, and that makes 24 and 8, that's 32 across this one. That's 15 right there, and 12 and 5, that is 32. There's 17 right there, plus 26 and 6, that's 32 right there. But now you're wondering about those diagonals. Why aren't you wondering about those diagonals? So let's take a look and see. That's 14 right there, that makes 26 and 6, that's 32 across that one. This one is 2 and 12, and right there is 19 and 13, that makes 32 right across there. But no, I'm still not done. I came all the way from San Diego through Alabama to get here, so I said, you know what? I'll also do this little box for you right up here. That's 25 right there, 29 and 3, that's 32. This little box right there, that's 25, 30 plus 2, that's 32 right there. This little box right down here, there's a big hint on the back, it's 32. Okay, this down here, that's 15 right there, plus 19 and 13, that is 32 right there. But no, I'm still not done. If you're going to wear the bandana, you better do something extra. So I said, this right here, I'm going to do the center section. That's 13 right there, plus 7 is 20, plus 12 is 32. But no, if you're going to represent the teacher umpire, you better bring the noise. So the extra little bit of time, that 13 seconds with your freely called number, I said, what the heck? I will also do the corners. That's 11 right there. That makes 13 right there, plus 26 and 6 is 32. There's over 40 different ways of 32 in 13 seconds with a freely called number. And that's the way to get this thing done. I am pumped right now. Oh, I am pumped right now. I am pumped. I would like to talk to you about this. This is math. I know that seems like a strange thing to say, but when was the last time you saw someone do math and then people just broke into applause? I said that once at a school and a woman raised her hand and said, tears. Sometimes they cry when we do it. So why did you just applaud when I did math? I think I know why. I think you applauded because of something I call the third circle. I look at teaching as a triple Venn diagram. There are 3 interlocking circles. We have to have all 3 to be our most powerful. One of those circles I label as content. And we have to have that circle, or we're just entertainers or babysitters, right? But there's all sorts of ways to learn your content. There's books about content, professional development about content, online places to learn content. Lots of ways to learn content. Then there's this second circle that interlocks with that. I call it techniques and methods. And we have a whole toolbox of teaching techniques and methods based on our credential programs, our trainings in district, conferences we've attended, our colleagues. Lots of books have been written about the techniques and methods of teaching, right? But then there's a third circle that I think that no one's talking about, and I've got a zeal to go and travel and talk about. That third circle is what I label presentation. So yes, you have your content. Yeah, you have all these techniques and methods, but now how are you going to present it in such a way that's engaging for kids? How are you going to present it in such a way that it's relevant for them? How are you going to present it in such a way that it draws them almost magically or magnetically into what you're doing in your rooms? That's the third circle of Teach Like a Pirate. So let me tell you the presentational decisions that went into what you just saw right there. First of all, I didn't say, hey, before break, I want to do a little math thing. I said, hey, I'm going to try to set a world record. So it's positioned as a world record attempt. That was a presentational decision to try to make it a little more engaging, right? And then I put a time limit on it. Oh, and got a clock ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Oh, so you got to hit a certain time. That was a presentational decision to make it a little more engaging too, right? We get a freely called number from the audience going on, a little audience interaction. And then presentational decision. I didn't do this. Ready, go. Notice that this has to add up to 32. I have to think about how these diagonals are going to interact with these boxes. That's not what I did. I went like this. Ready, go. Now, what are you thinking?
What are you doing?
What is he doing back there? Now, presentational decision. I didn't say, stop. Look, they all add up. I went like this. Thank you. And walked away. And then what did you say? Show us that. Now this is important. Look what just happened. We entirely flipped the whole dynamic of the classroom. I'm not trying to show you something anymore. You're demanding to see it. I'm trying to walk away. And you're going, no, this. Oh, you want to see this. Okay. Oh, so we flipped the whole dynamic of what was going on. Right? Okay, you want to see it. Right? Now, presentational decision. I didn't say, look, they all add up in all these different directions. I downplayed it at first. I chose to downplay it. Oh, I just tried to make it add up across like this. Thank you. And I waited for a few of you to be polite. I said, no. And I got more and more ramped up and excited as I showed you increasing levels of complexity of what I did in 13 seconds with his number. Ending with one, which I think is going to be most surprising to you, that even the corners themselves out of the 32 literally broke over my knee, threw it down, and stopped in a pose. And at that moment, you applaud or, well, you're kind of rude. Because it's been built to a presentational climactic moment, right? All this energy is building up in the room. I'm getting more and more excited. The numbers are swirling together in increasingly complex ways. And then I break the board, throw it down, and stop. And when I stop, all that energy that built up has to go somewhere or it's awkward. So it's almost like it transfers to you. Like I stop, like, boom, right? That's why, like, if you see a dramatic performance, like a Broadway show or something like that, and there's a big ding, like, and the number ends, and everyone on stage is like, ding, and the little electricity goes through your skin, like, right? And that's done presentationally, like really jolt the audience when that happens, right? So now, if there are that many presentational decisions and a little 3 to 4 minute math magic routine, how many presentational decisions do we have every day in our classroom? And in and of themselves, they seem so small, right? But they're not. They build and stack upon each other. See, I drive teachers crazy when I work with them with their lessons, because I ask them so many questions. Hey, are the lights going to be on or off when the kids walk in for this one? What are you going to have written on your board? Have you chosen the musical selection that might be perfect for this? Do you have any props that you're displaying? What are you going to say the day before this to build up anticipation, be real for the next day? And pretty soon teachers are like, just stop. Like, I don't decide all that stuff. Like, I don't decide if the lights are on or off when the kids walk in. And I say, yes, you do. You do decide that. Because the lights are either going to be on or off when they walk in tomorrow, right? So you either decide that or you abdicate responsibility for that decision. And they're like, oh my God. Okay, yes, I decide that. And the lights are going to be on tomorrow when kids walk in. Now, in and of themselves, again, these things seem so small, but they build and stack upon each other. And all these presentational decisions that we have at our disposal every day, they can be haphazardly thrown together to create a threadbare blanket of boredom. Or they could be intentionally woven into a beautiful, rich quilt of engagement, depending upon how you stitch it. Control everything at your disposal to make school amazing for kids. Thank you. All right, so that takes us up to our break. We're going to take, I believe it's a 20-minute break and a chance to visit the vendors, the bathroom, and all that kind of stuff. I see lots of books and stuff. I'm not sure what the book situation is. If anyone does not have a book, are they getting books, not getting books? Or
All teachers should have received a book.
Okay. If anyone, I have books, if anyone needs books, wants to get a book for somebody or something like that. But yeah, so enjoy your break. We'll come back here at 9:52 and we'll make fun of people who are late. Okay. 9:52.
I still